Hey y'all, this is your girl Jamie here. What is going on, J Squad? How are y'all doing? I hope y'all are having a straight up blessed day. If y'all are new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if y'all like this, y'all know what to do. Hit the like button, guys. Well, let's go ahead and talk about Miss Priscilla Presley, guys. Whew. Now, Priscilla in her own right, she's a legend. She was married to Elvis, yada, yada, yada. We know what happened. They had Lisa Marie. Now, Priscilla likes to come out, trying to claim that she's this sweet and innocent, she was this sweet and innocent young girl, 14-year-old girl who just didn't know any better. And that her and Elvis had this fairy tale romance. Now, reality check. There goes the brakes, squeak. She needs to pump the brakes a little bit because, let me break it down for y'all. Some of the Memphis Mafia, have came out and done, lots of interviews throughout the years and stuff about Elvis and, how he was with Priscilla and, just everything in between. And Priscilla, let me give y'all my take on it. I don't think she's as sweet as apple pie is. I think, like with anything in every relationship, every marriage, once you scratch the surface a little bit, there lies the truth. Now, I think Priscilla, she was 14, if y'all don't know. She was 14 when she first met Elvis she was over in, Germany, and he got stationed off, to the army. Fast forward, he was, but he was still already famous, yada, yada, yada. So at some point, like when she was I think 16 or 17, her parents left her go ahead and move over to Graceland, in Memphis and all. So she flew over. And Elvis promised, to keep her in school, which she went to an all-girls Catholic school. And, she finished her education, yada, yada, yada. Well, in the mix of this, y'all, she was still only 16, 17? So Elvis, who was no angel, he had a thing for women. And it's, not everybody. He was obviously a great guy. He did a lot for, the people that was close to him. He bought a lot of people cars. He showed his love like that, which I get. But at the same time, some of his Memphis Mafia folks, they all came out with their books, their memoirs, and, the different outlets they've, have done their interviews and stuff on. But some of them have came out and said, about the relationship with Elvis and Priscilla and, of how it actually was. And Priscilla, she, in her memoir, she came out, throwing some shade as well at Elvis, which Elvis is no longer, here to defend himself, in retrospect. But Priscilla, I get it that Elvis, here's this young girl, she's innocent, she's still a virgin, she's yada yada. She doesn't know any better. I can groom her into the type of wife and woman that I see her as fit to be, and that will fit mine every, need, and, she'll bow down to she'll cater to everything I need and want done as far as a wife. She'll sit over in the corner, she'll sit there and be quiet, and she won't, basically like a puppy, she won't get up and she won't bark. Okay, so, but my opinion of Priscilla is, in some of the Memphis, one of the Memphis Mafia, y'all. Let me get it out tonight, y'all. Have came out and said that Elvis didn't want her to use his last name after they divorced. And we all know she has, and she still has, and she never remarried. And I always forget that she went on and also had another son. But, okay, think about this. This young girl, she was 14. She obviously was infatuated with Elvis like all the other young girls were back then. And he sparked an interest in her. So, she made sure she locked him down. His Memphis Mafia guy, also has stated that, let's see what his name is, y'all. I know I keep calling him this Memphis Mafia, but his last name is West. But, about, Priscilla's father and Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager, really pushed and pursued Elvis to marry, this young lady, Priscilla. And I guess they wanted, him to have like a better image. I don't know, whatever. Who knows what it was back then. But let me get back to my opinion on Priscilla, though. We got this young girl. She was 14. She was naive. Didn't, have anything to probably, she was still young. And back then, this was a little more acceptable. Still scratching your head probably, like, really? But just saying, it was a different time back then. I wasn't around. But just a different time period. So things were a little more accepted, whereas nowadays they still wouldn't be. But she went on and she married him, I think when she was like 21. But she wrote in her memoir, after the fact that Elvis, was already gone, that when she first went, to Graceland to stay for the holidays and everything, that he had given her, obviously without her parents present, which I don't know who does that, but they trusted Elvis to take care of her, and yeah. So he gave her 2 red pills in her memoir, she said, and she was knocked out for like 2 days straight. But let me get back to my opinion, though. So we got this young girl, and she's obsessed, infatuated with Elvis like all these other young chicks were back then. And here Elvis is like, okay, let's get married. I want to marry you. So in her mind, it's going to be this great fairy tale ending. Right away she gets pregnant with Lisa Marie. What could go wrong, right? So at least that's how she's painted it out to be. In more recent years after he passed and all that, it was this fairy tale romance. But in reality, he was just grooming her. And I don't think she still really quite gets it, that she was groomed, because that's probably all she ever knew at such a young age, by maybe her father and her, ex-husband, Elvis, and, but in her mind, she really wanted him to be a stay-at-home dad, a stay-at-home husband. She thought, as a lot of women do, and a lot of men as well, that once I marry him, he will change into this great person that I want, him to be. How sometimes you pump up in your head, the ideal of somebody, but when they disappoint and they don't live up to that expectation that's in your head, it's such a letdown and such a failure. And I think at some point of him, always going out and with this girl and that girl, and Priscilla still being a lot younger than Elvis, seeing all of this, think about it, back then, they didn't have the automatic of, Instagram, social media, all this stuff right at your fingertips, to where you can find out right away. She, had to find out, and by like the longer way version, the newspapers, the magazines, word of mouth, the radio, the TV, whatever she just happened to see. But I think at some point she had had enough. Like, nobody puts baby in a corner type of thing. And she had, she was at her she was fed up of always seeing and hearing about all these things he was doing with all these other girls, even though he did a lot of movies and stuff back then as well. But he had a lot of other relationships on the side besides Priscilla. And before Priscilla, he had a very colorful, what's the word? A very colorful dating history, just to put it nicely, y'all. So I think she built him up in her head. She expected a lot out of her marriage. And even the Memphis Mafia, they all stated in numerous interviews that she was married, but Elvis wasn't. So in Elvis's mind, it was okay for him to go and do all of these other things, but she was supposed to sit in the corner and keep her mouth shut. Oh, it was Sonny West. It was one of Elvis's longtime friends and bodyguard, his Memphis Mafia people. But they were in a close-knit group of, his colleagues, his friends, his family, his different employees that he had. But back in 2007 is when Sonny West came out with his, his tell-all book. And in that book, he stated that, Elvis and Priscilla, like any couple, had many problems over the years. He claimed that Priscilla, she just wasn't allowed to use his name, his last name. She didn't use it until after his death, against Elvis's wishes. So obviously Elvis would not have been happy about that. I think, she used that for her own fame and, money, kind of like how she took over Graceland all of a sudden. And, has basically lived off the coattails of Elvis her whole life, even until this day. This is the same lady who went on and left Elvis for Elvis's karate teacher, and went on from, Rob Kardashian to this guy, to that guy, to that guy. It wasn't until I started looking into Miss Priscilla, and she's not so innocent as she claims and comes off. When I realized she's been with all of these different, relationships and men, and she also, I always forget about her having a son as well. So, and the fact that she never remarried any of these guys, I think it's just because she was so young and naive and hung up on the fact that she really, truly, in her mind, had her and Elvis, like, they were just like in this romantic, love, yada, yada, romantic fairy tale life in her mind. But in reality, it was nothing but. The Memphis Mafia, they've all came out and, they said about how Elvis was, when she first got there, he, made her wear all these different clothes and hair and all this different makeup. And he really wanted her to, look a certain type of way, the way he wanted her to look. But Sonny West went on to say that Priscilla was not legally supposed to use the Presley name for the purpose of a career in entertainment after their divorce. He accused her of using her ex-husband's name as a form of brand promotion, which I agree 1,000%. And alleged she has repeatedly denied, of course, over the years. Sonny also went on to say about even though her and Elvis was, by the time he did die, they were already divorced for like 4 years. And she just wanted the self-promotion, the media, everybody to label her as, the sad widow. We should all feel bad for her because Elvis died and now she's a widow, which he said that it was a label that she benefited, greatly from. Now, let's talk about how Priscilla wasn't allowed to be speaking or even in the same room alone unless Elvis was present in the same room at Graceland with any of the staff or any of the males, basically. Now, her and Jerry, I think it's Shalling, which obviously them two remain friends, as everyone has seen, in the picture above, right before Lisa Marie passed away. Now, Elvis made it very, very clear, extremely clear, that they were not to be in the same room as her alone, or really to have anything conversation-wise with her. He tried to keep her completely isolated, as narcissistic men do, or just narcissistic people in general, but he was really trying to groom her. So I think that, as we know about stuff like that nowadays, that's what it looks like to me. And he found her in, I think the kitchen, and Jerry, struck up a conversation, with her, as two young people do. And Elvis come in and he flipped his wig. Now, Priscilla also claims that when she first got to Graceland, he drugged her and, she was sleeping, off of sleeping pills for 2 days straight. And when she came to, that she, heard his mom or whoever saying, should we call the doctor, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, H-E double hockey stick, no. We're not calling no doctor. She's okay. She's, she's moving around a little bit, yada, yada, yada kind of thing. So, and, in her defense, and I don't want to give her too much credit, but I feel like he was definitely, because back then, the whole grooming, I'm the man, you're the woman, you're supposed to sit over here in the corner while I go and cheat on you, and you're supposed to be okay. It might not happen in all households, but that's what was going on in Elvis Presley's household. He wanted the quiet little wife that, was beautiful, but only for him because he was so jealous of her, of any other guys looking at her, but he wanted her kept in the corner. And I don't know too many women that are going to sit in that corner for very long, especially when they're married to Elvis Presley and he's out here doing, the dirty with everybody in sight. And he also went around kissing. This is the same man that went around kissing women at all his concerts. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, y'all. I'm just stating what he did. And he used to tell his Memphis Mafia about fidelity, that it was very, very important to him, especially on the woman's part. He was constantly reminding, his, crew that was one of the things that was completely, it had to be that way. She had to be, faithful to him, even though he was frequently, unloyal and cheated on her left and right. But at home, his wife had to be there cooking, and cleaning, what little wives do, taking care of the babies. Yeah, we all know that type, that stereotypical type. And the crazy thing is in here in 2023, we still have men like that. Trust me, I know quite a few of them that really believe to their core that that's how it should be. Oh, no, not nowadays. Us as women, we we got to put up with too much. We got to pay our own bills, yada, 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 for some raggedy dude to come along and act like they're going to act like that. Oh, no. No. That's just how it is nowadays. Now, if I had a husband like Elvis, I don't think I'd overlook it, because I'd be telling him, I ain't putting up with that. But let's get back to Mr. Elvis Presley here. Miss Priscilla, she also wrote in her book that, she always feared that Elvis wasn't always faithful to her. Even the way Elvis would basically flirt with some of the other girls, that worked within the home. She always said that it made her think that he might be intimately familiar with them, if y'all know what I'm saying. And I guess the girls, the way they acted towards him, she could just see that body language or whatever. But I mean, he probably was, y'all, because he was with everybody. Elvis was one of those type of guys that his wife and his inner circle, especially his wife should be left in the corner, keeping her mouth shut, doing what she's supposed to be doing within the home, all the while being at his beck and call when he was present and when he would actually show up in the house and play husband for, a couple of days or whatever before the next tour. But he also felt like that, his inner circle, his people that worked in his home, all should be 24/7 at his beck and call. Whenever he decided to pop up and say, hey, I want a banana peanut butter sandwich thing, y'all should make it, and, no one should say a word kind of type of people. Like, he was very, very demanding, even if it didn't make sense or not. To him, it made sense. So how dare anyone question what I need or want at this given second type of people. But I think Priscilla, she knew what she was getting into. And she also knew it wasn't a fairy tale. Because, she even stated about how Elvis was so cruel to her when she would question his, about his fidelity. About all the cheating with, and Margaret and this one and that one. And, there were so many of them. So I don't think either one of them, at the end of the day, I don't think either one of them was the better of the two. I think he was probably a huge narcissist. He might have been a great guy and treated everybody lovely, but when it comes to his relationship with women, especially his wife, I think, like his Mafia people said, she was married, but he wasn't. I think, that, like he said, he wanted the little doggy, to basically not bark, and complain or question him about anything. And when he needed her at his beck and call, she was supposed to jump and say how high. Now, I think little Miss Priscilla at some point got fed, the blank up and had enough of the craziness and, started seeing the karate guy and this guy and I think it was the dancer guy, the teacher or whatever, was the first one, but then the karate one just went a little more public. But I think he really, messed with her head. And because she was so young, he got into her head. He, reprogrammed her, so to say. Because if she probably wouldn't have ever met him, her life would have been totally different. She probably would have been a lawyer questioning, people, or a judge, or just who knows what, really. But he really groomed her. He was demanding. He, isolated her just like narcissistic individuals do. Their, other significant other.
So he wanted her to keep her mouth shut, basically. He didn't want the world knowing about her, but he wanted her to be all beautiful for him. He didn't want any of his inner staff to, have much to do with her. And she even stated in her book, her memoir, that one of her main complaints was because of the Mafia guy, the Memphis Mafia guys didn't allow her a lot of time with Elvis, but it was probably Elvis, being the way he was, he didn't want. Now, of course, Priscilla, she was always finding cards and women's phone numbers and letters, and, she saw all the newspapers and, the stuff on the radio and the magazines and whatever they had back then. And she, at some point she started, she was that little puppy in the corner who started barking. And she started barking loud, y'all. And at some point Elvis, he told her he didn't have a blanket thing to hide, which obviously he had lots to hide. And he couldn't hide it very well because he was Elvis Presley. He was all over, the news back then. And he, of course, told her that, she was getting too demanding and aggressive. And it was a great idea if she went home to her parents for a while. So what she do? She went home. So obviously she, at that point, she was just fed up with him. He didn't let her leave that time, that incident, but he quickly told her, he wasn't serious. She just needed someone to put her in her place. Now, if that doesn't scream narcissistic to y'all, nowadays speaking, back then it might have sounded like just a husband being a husband. But narcissistic people, they like to keep you confused. They like to keep you on that hamster wheel, spinning around and around with their little cycles that they have. And it's so predictable. He was straight up, abusing her mentally, and as narcissistic people do. And I'm a huge fan of Elvis, so don't get it twisted, guys. But from, my point of view, this is what I'm seeing. And he knew that she was young, so she was easily trainable to his eyes. So she even said that she was relieved and happy to be back in his arms, even though he was packing her bags and getting her to blank out of there and trying to get her booked up on a flight to go home to her parents. She said that anything he had said would have made sense to me in that moment. She said what I didn't realize until later was that this was Elvis's technique of keeping me under his control. Of course. Those types of people are very controlling. They're always cheaters. They're always liars. And they're always great to other people on the outside. They look like saints to everybody else. I can't blame either one of them. Because Elvis, I could do a whole video about why I think, Elvis was great too. I'm not saying that I think Priscilla is great either, but I think even to this day that chick still doesn't understand, what mentally he did to her, and she can't, to this day, she says she still, just feels like, he was just the controlling nature, type. No, that's probably why she never moved on and actually married anybody. I think she antagonized him with, Rob Kardashian, the karate guy, the dancing guy, this guy, that guy. Oh, she probably definitely pulled at his heartstrings a little and definitely got him jealous and stirred up. But she never moved on with anybody else and married anybody. She eventually had a kid, her son, which I think, obviously was after the fact, of Elvis dying, so she felt like, hey, he's gone. I can use his last name. I can run Graceland and, profit off of all this stuff. I can go on and do this and this. But the fact that she never really moved on to another marriage, it might be because she would lose the right to maybe use his last name still, or the fact that he was still in her head. She could still hear him in the back of her head, in her ear, you know, being, you know, like she just felt like she couldn't ever move on because of the torment and the abuse and stuff that, you know, he obviously did to a 14-year-old. Now, let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. Let me know what y'all's opinions and thoughts. But if y'all are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if y'all like this video, go ahead and like it. And I will talk to y'all in my next video, guys. Bye.